Start standing and I'll roll down, bring it down to the knees. If you want to go over the toes or if you want to work the flexion in your toes, your choice. Stretch it back into what your version of child's pose is. I can't flex my knees very much, but I like to take my child's pose and not keep it still, but move it through cat-cow, up dog, down dog is coming in a minute as well. But just trying to get that undulatory feeling to the spine. Do what feels good. A little, now I've gone over the toes, a little press down and a lift. But really what I'm working is that undulation and articulation through the spine. You can call it cat-cow. You can call it whatever you want. I'm calling it, let's move every single vertebra and then find where that strength has to pull through a long spine supported by shoulders. And then I begin this idea of spiraling and opening up the front body, lifting from the hips, letting the hips carry me around. I'm really focusing on my initiation point being the hips and the length of my head down away from the hips. Again, pulling from the pelvis to come around, not just dropping my knees. A little test to lift through a flat back and come up, a curve, and then an elongated pitch flat back. It takes a lot of strength there to actually hold that as well as keep that flexion in the knees, which we all know is one of my biggies. I come on up, I take a little curved, C-curve, tucky thingy, whichever you want to call it, and then I'm in my own way, so I gotta move over. Stretching out over. And I've already had a dance class today, so I'm just trying to actually make my hips feel better. Little swan at the top, then a spiraling through, big yawn, fun times. Now the thing about a spiral is you cannot spiral without a diagonal, right? You cannot spiral without finding some kind of oppositional reach that comes across the back and across the midline. So here, initiating from the hips, I find this diagonal that reaches through the torso. I test a little tricep and a little lift up through that lateral side body, and then coming around, head's the last thing up since I'm moving sequentially through the spine. Back to that little C-curve balance, pull in, and you know mama loves a tree. Again, I've had a dance class and my ankles and my hips are just, they're getting tight on me because I'm getting sore. Coming around, a rock forward and a rock back. Yes, I did all the point and flex and circles of the foot. Now you go where you go with this. Obviously, I've, overstretched my hamstrings all day. So, hanging off of them is not a big deal for me to get to my shin, but really focus more on what your torso does to come around to the leg, more so than what you do to pull the leg to you. Then you'll have more control whether you want to go into single leg circle, whether you want to just rock back and forth. I choose a little rolling like a ball to just come through center. Test out that whole coccyx balance C-curve teaser shape. Rock it back. Where can you move? What's your movement potential? If you're really integrated, what's your movement potential? Does the choreography really matter that much? Some would say yes. Some would say just move. I'm choosing just move. And I go into a little 100 single leg stretch. Back to the 100. On the exhale, a single leg stretch. An inhale to start pumping on the 100. And an exhale. Those who are dancers, assemble and pull back to that Pilates V, which you saw me just miss. You saw me miss. Those who aren't dancers, that just means really sharply pull and assemble your legs back together. Don't just be all yay, now I'm back together. And then out of that, I find a nice transition to just the single leg stretch, playing with a flex foot to really get through that posterior chain. Here comes teaser, lies. Here it comes. You think it's hip circles, but it's not. What I'm looking for is that diagonal of the reach out to the legs to one side and the pull back in opposition of my torso up the other side of the diagonal. That's going to come again in a minute when I get to my side kicks. I know, diagonals and a side kicks. The X position, O, the magic X. Lead with the arm, pull head. Lead from the leg, pull pelvis, take the left arm up over, reach, find the diagonal. Find the diagonal, keep stretching the ends of the spine in opposition. Leading with the leg and lower body. And then, the shoulders, because there was floor work today. There were handstands today. There was a lot of downward dogging today. Coming back through, and then the other side. This also, I love to take a little wiggle in the middle, because who doesn't? Let the arms circle around in both directions, but find the diagonal at the top that reaches to the opposition of the leg. So you stretch the waist and actually get that nice lateral mobility in your back. The Magic X is one of my favorite things to do in the whole wide world. Now, do y'all know that like shaking is a good thing? And like when you actually relax muscle, it should move. Now, side note, this video is sped up by just a stitch so that I could get all 10 minutes of moving in. So that looks super funny in the feet. Right? Shaking out the arms as well. Muscle needs to be able to tighten and engage. Muscle also needs to be able to release. We don't spend enough time with palms, hands, finger articulation. This is me just stretching it out. Because again, in modern dance, we do a lot of floor work and it can be a beast on the forearms and the wrists. Plus you need all that articulation and flexibility for your grip strength when you are on the bar and the reformer. Over to the side kicks. Here we go, friends. Ready? Now, can you catch it? Where like I start in parallel and then rotate at the top, where like, not really at the top. I'm rotating at the place where my parallel taps out, where my pelvis says, hey, you're gonna have to rotate if you want this leg to go any farther. But when I come down, I find that parallel again. So I'm really trying to just get it all of my hip. And then here's a really fun transition. Instead of just roll to the other side, why not pike spiral twist? You call that whatever you want, right? But you can't do that unless you can find the diagonals. And when I go to the other side, I'll explain that. Again, a lifting and a parallel, rotating when you have hit this place where you can no longer maintain parallel. That is going to be different for everyone. Notice I also reverse the foot. I point it on the way up and then I flex on the way up. Pretty sure I'm going for 3 counts on this whole thing, or 3 reps, I should say. And then when I get to the transition, if you do not find the diagonal lift up over that was your spiral, this moment here where you want to place your legs down with control and then elongate the upper body away from the lower body, if you've set up that diagonal lateral work and you call on it, it will be there. I take a little bit of rond de jambe, that's fancy for circle. And then I do parallel circles. Again, I want you to really kind of slow down your eye, even though I've sped up the video. And look at when I'm using parallel, when I'm using rotation. Then I add, can I lift the upper body and hover? And then continue to pick it up. Try not to push with your hands, but really pull up and spiral and twist, and then untwist to get to the other side. You're gonna end up using your hands. It's okay. Either way, you tried it. You win. Going to the other side, I can see a huge difference in the control of my left waist, which is my top side here. If you can see it, it looks a little collapsed, doesn't it? Well, that's my trash side. I add in some inwardly rotated beats front and back to get at that left glute medius, which is considerably weaker than my other side. And I'm a big advocate of maybe sometimes you need a little bit extra on one side. Lifting the floor side of the torso, I push a little bit more because that right side's my heavy side. Remember, that left side was collapsed. My right side's heavy. So I had to use my arms a little bit. Taking it on to the stomach. Little bit of beat so I can kind of even out through the pelvis. I'm giving a little bit more movement that I would like, but hey, I'm tired. Pulling it up into Swan, and then I get a little cameo from my little peeps. There's no sound on in the back because my husband's watching football, and this was literally the only 10 minutes I could get to myself inside my house. I had to run away to go to dance class. And now I'm back, rolling it up to finish, and all moms, see, it's either your kids or your dogs, right? Like kids, pets, somebody needs to come in and get in your frame. And then you can embarrass your 12-year-old.